Lieutenant John Mason stared at the view screen with wide eyes. The alien ship hung in space before him, unlike anything he had ever seen. It was twice the size of his patrol vessel and covered in what looked like armored plates. "Status report," he said, keeping his voice steadied despite his racing heart. "Unknown vessel is holding position, sir," replied Officer Eric Jones from the sensor station. "No weapons are charged, but their shields are up. They're waiting." Mason nodded slowly. This was why he had joined the Earth Defense Fleet. For moments like this, first contact situations were rare now. 15 years after humanity had joined the galactic community, most species had already been cataloged. "Open a channel," he ordered. The screen flickered, and Mason found himself looking at a massive reptilian creature. Its scales were a deep red, and sharp ridges protruded from its head. Yellow eyes with vertical pupils studied him with obvious intelligence. "This is Lieutenant John Mason of the Earth Defense Fleet. We come in peace and wish to establish communication." The alien tilted its head, revealing powerful neck muscles. When it spoke, its voice was deep and rumbling. "I am Commander Krex of the Vrok Dominion. Your presence is unexpected." Mason relaxed slightly. The universal translators were working. "We're on a routine patrol of our outer colonies. We didn't expect to find another ship in this sector." Krex made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Humans, we have heard of your kind. You come from a world the Galactic Council calls a death world. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, dangerous predators, toxic flora. Like our homeworld." Mason's interest peaked. "You're Deathworlders too." "Indeed. My species evolved on a planet with 1.8 of your Earth gravities. Our atmosphere has higher oxygen content, supporting larger predators. We adapted. We survived. We conquered." Pride radiated from Krex's words. "That explains your physical build," Mason said, noting the alien's powerful frame. "Earth has similar challenges, though different ones. Extreme weather, diverse predators, tectonic instability. And yet here we both are, among the stars," Krex said thoughtfully. "Most species evolve on peaceful worlds with stable environments. They find our kinds unsettling." Mason nodded. Humans had learned that quickly after joining galactic society. Most aliens found them frighteningly resilient, unnervingly adaptable, and disturbingly predatory in their thinking. "Maybe that's why we've never encountered your species before," Mason suggested. "The Council tends to keep Deathworld species separated." "A wise precaution," Krex rumbled, "though perhaps unnecessary. There is honor in meeting another who understands the struggle of evolving on an unforgiving world." Mason was about to respond when Officer Jones interrupted. "Sir, we're receiving a distress signal from Mining Outpost 7. They're under attack." Mason frowned. "Put it through." A panicked voice filled the bridge. "This is Outpost 7. We're under attack by unknown forces. They've already breached the outer defenses. They're not responding to communication attempts. We need immediate assistance." Mason looked back at the view screen. To his surprise, Krex seemed to be receiving a similar message. "It seems our meeting must be cut short," the Vrok commander said grimly. "That outpost, it is a joint operation between our peoples. My government approved a mining partnership 6 cycles ago." "I wasn't aware," Mason said, already calculating the fastest route to the outpost. "We're the closest Earth vessel. We'll head there immediately." Krex bared sharp teeth in what might have been a smile. "As are we the closest Vrok ship. Perhaps we shall see how 2 Deathworld species work together." "Joint rescue operation," Mason suggested. "Agreed," Krex said. "Whoever attacks our people will learn the cost of challenging Deathworlders." The transmission ended, and Mason turned to his navigation officer. "Set course for Outpost 7, maximum speed. And alert Earth Command that we've made first contact with the Vrok, and that we're about to make second contact with whoever is attacking our outpost." As the stars blurred around them, Mason couldn't help but wonder what kind of species would be bold enough, or foolish enough, to attack a facility operated by not one but two Deathworld species. He had a feeling they were about to find out. The Defiant Asterisk dropped out of faster-than-light travel alongside the Vrelk vessel. Mining Outpost 7 came into view, a sprawling structure built into a large asteroid. Parts of it were on fire, venting atmosphere into the void of space. "Life signs?" Mason asked, scanning the scene. Lisa Winters, the science officer, studied her screen with worried eyes. Faint readings from the central hub. "Looks like survivors barricaded themselves in the main control room. But I'm picking up other life forms too, not human or Vrelk." "The attackers," Mason said grimly. His communication panel lit up. Commander Krex's face appeared on screen. "Lieutenant Mason, my scanners show your outpost is still under attack. We must act quickly." Mason nodded. "Agreed. My team can approach from the south airlock while yours takes the north. We'll catch them in the middle." "A sound strategy," Krex rumbled. "These attackers will learn the cost of provoking two Deathworld species in one day." 20 minutes later, Mason led a team of 6 through the damaged corridors of the outpost. The air was thin and emergency lights cast red shadows across the walls. They had found 3 dead human miners already. Their bodies were slashed with what looked like claw marks. "Movement ahead," whispered Officer Patel, raising her weapon. Mason signaled the team to take cover. Around the corner came a creature that made the hair on his neck stand up. It walked on 6 legs with a body like a giant spider. Its head was more insect than arachnid, with compound eyes and clicking mandibles. It carried what looked like an energy weapon in its front appendages. Before Mason could give the order to fire, a second alien appeared, then a third, then 5 more. "Steady," Mason breathed to his team. The lead alien suddenly froze, its head turning directly toward their position. It made a series of rapid clicks that Mason's translator couldn't catch. All the aliens raised their weapons. "Open fire," Mason shouted. The human team's weapons lit up the corridor. 2 aliens fell immediately, their chitinous exoskeletons cracking under the assault. But the others moved with surprising speed, climbing walls and ceiling to return fire. Green energy bolts struck the wall near Mason's head. He rolled to better cover, firing as he moved. His team was well trained, but these creatures were fast. Just as the situation looked dire, a thunderous roar echoed from the other end of the corridor. Commander Krex and 4 massive Vrelk warriors charged into the fray. The Vrelk weapons fired devastating bolts of blue energy, tearing through the alien attackers. Caught between 2 forces, the spider-like creatures tried to retreat. Mason saw his chance. "Patel, Peterson, flank right," he ordered. His team executed the maneuver perfectly, cutting off the aliens' escape route. The battle was over in seconds. As the last attacker fell, Krex approached Mason. The Vrelk commander looked even more imposing in person, towering over the human by at least 2 feet. "Your warriors fight well," Krex said, nodding respectfully. "As do yours," Mason replied. "Any idea what these things are?" Lisa Winters was already scanning one of the dead aliens with her handheld device. They appear to be Xictic, a species from the Outer Rim. They evolved on a high-radiation world. "Another Deathworld species," Mason said, surprised. "Indeed," Krex rumbled, "though their evolutionary path took a very different turn from either of ours." Lisa looked up from her scanner. "I'm detecting unusual neural patterns. They seem to share some kind of hive-mind connection." "That would explain their coordination," Mason said, "but not why they attacked this outpost." Krex kneeled beside one of the fallen Xictic and removed a small device from its body. "A data storage unit. Perhaps this will tell us their purpose here." Officer Jones approached from the direction of the control room. "Sir, we've secured the survivors. 12 humans and 8 Vrelk made it. They say the attack came without warning." Mason nodded grimly. "Let's get these people to safety and see what information we can pull from that data unit." As they began evacuation procedures, Mason couldn't shake the feeling that this attack was just the beginning of something much larger. 3 Deathworld species, he muttered to himself. This can't be a coincidence. Admiral Frank Carter frowned at the holographic display. The images of the spider-like Siktik hung in the air before him. Mason and Krex stood at attention on the other side of the table in Earth Fleet headquarters. So these bugs attack our joint mining operation without warning, Carter said. His voice was rough from years of giving orders. And you believe they're planning something bigger? Mason nodded. Yes, sir. Lisa Winters decrypted part of their data storage. They refer to a plan called the Purge. It mentions both Earth and the Vrelk homeworld as primary targets. Krex stepped forward, his massive frame making the human furniture look small. My government has received reports of 3 more attacks on Vrelk outposts. These Siktik move with purpose. They are not random raiders. Carter rubbed his chin. Political Officer Blake, your thoughts? Susan Blake had been quiet until now. Her job was to consider the bigger political picture beyond military concerns. Admiral, we need allies. Humanity has struggled to find friends in the galactic community. Most species find us unsettling. Because we're Deathworlders, Carter said with a slight smile. Exactly, Blake continued. The Vrelk understand what that's like. They've faced the same prejudice. If these Siktik are targeting Deathworld species, we should stand together. Carter turned to Krex. Commander, would your government consider a formal alliance? Krex's yellow eyes narrowed. The Vrelk do not seek allies easily, but we respect strength and honor. Your Lieutenant Mason and his warriors showed both during the rescue operation. I will recommend an alliance to the High Command. Then it's settled, Carter said. We'll arrange a formal meeting on the neutral station Omega-6. Mason, you'll lead our security detail. 3 days later, Mason watched as human and Vrelk diplomats gathered in Omega-6's main conference room. The station hung in neutral space between Earth and Vrelk territory. Tensions were high as the 2 delegations sized each other up. Keep your eyes open, Mason told his team. We're making history today, but not everyone may want this alliance to happen. Officer Peterson nodded toward a group of 4 Vrelk warriors standing guard. Those guys haven't stopped staring at us since we arrived. They're evaluating us, Mason explained, just like we're evaluating them. It's what soldiers do. The diplomatic talks proceeded smoothly at first. Both sides recognized the threat posed by the Siktik. Maps showed recent attack patterns forming a clear strategy. The insectoids were testing defenses and gathering intelligence. During a break in the talks, Mason approached the refreshment table at the same time as a large Vrelk warrior. You are the one who fought alongside Commander Krex, the Vrelk said. I am Drav, weapons specialist. Lieutenant Mason, he replied, extending his hand in the human greeting gesture. Drav looked at the hand with confusion. After a moment, he extended his own clawed hand. As they shook, Mason noticed how careful the Vrelk was not to hurt him with his sharp claws. Suddenly, a human marine bumped into a Vrelk warrior near the door. The Vrelk snarled, showing sharp teeth. The marine stepped back but put his hand on his weapon. Stand down, Mason shouted, rushing over. Control your warrior, Drav called to his own people in their language. The situation teetered on the edge of violence. Both sides were bred for combat, evolved to fight when threatened. Centuries of instinct pushed them toward conflict. Mason stepped between them. We're not here to fight each other. We're here because something out there is hunting both our species. Remember that. Slowly, tensions eased. The Marine stepped back. The Vrelk warrior relaxed his posture. As the diplomatic talks resumed, Mason caught Commander Krex watching him with what might have been approval. Perhaps, Krex said quietly as he passed, there is hope for this alliance after all. But later that night, as Mason prepared for sleep in his quarters, emergency alarms blared throughout the station. The Siktik had found them. Mason sprinted down the corridor of Omega-6, weapon in hand. Red emergency lights flashed overhead. The station's AI voice calmly announced a security breach in Docking Bay 3. Status report. He barked into his communicator. 3 Sictic ships attached to the outer hull, Officer Peterson replied. They cut through near the diplomatic quarter. We have at least 20 bugs inside already. Mason rounded a corner and nearly collided with Drav, the Vrelk weapons specialist. 3 other Vrelk warriors followed close behind. You heard? Mason asked. Drav nodded, raising a massive energy weapon. We go to defend our diplomats. You do the same. Yes, Mason said. Let's move together. Twice the firepower. The unlikely team moved through the station, following the sounds of weapons fire. They found a group of human marines and Vrelk warriors already engaged with the Sictic. The spider-like aliens moved with disturbing coordination, as if sharing one mind. Flank left. Mason called to Drav. We'll take right. The battle was fierce but brief. Working together, the humans and Vrelk drove the Sictic back. Mason noticed how the 2 species naturally complemented each other. Humans with their quick thinking and adaptability. Vrelk with their raw strength and durability. When the last attacker fell, Mason checked for casualties. 2 human marines were injured but alive. 1 Vrelk had a serious wound in his side. Lisa Winters appeared, carrying medical supplies. The diplomats are secure, she reported. Admiral Carter and the Vrelk High Command are in the safe room. As she treated the wounded, Mason examined one of the dead Sictic. Why attack during peace talks? They must have known they couldn't take the whole station. Perhaps that was not their goal, Drav said, joining him. Look, this one carries no weapons. Instead, it has this. The Vrelk held up a small device with blinking lights. Lisa scanned it with her handheld device. It's collecting data. Biological information, communications frequencies, defense protocols. They're studying us, Mason realized. Learning how we fight, how we work together. Peterson called from across the room. Sir, we've secured Docking Bay 3, but 1 Sictic ship escaped. Mason cursed under his breath. The attack wasn't meant to succeed. It was reconnaissance. Later, in the station's lab, Lisa and Drav worked side by side, analyzing the Sictic technology. Despite their physical differences, the human scientist and Vrelk weapons specialist had formed an effective partnership. Look at this neural tissue sample, Lisa said, pointing to her screen. Their brains have specialized lobes for hive-mind connection. They literally share thoughts. That explains their perfect coordination, Drav rumbled. No need for verbal commands. But it might be a weakness too, Lisa suggested. They think as one. Individual creativity might not be their strength. Mason entered the lab with Admiral Carter and Commander Krex. What have you found? Carter asked. Lisa showed them her findings. The Sictic evolved on a world with extreme radiation. It forced them to develop hive minds to survive. Sharing knowledge instantly was an advantage. Another Deathworld species, Krex observed, but one that took a very different evolutionary path. There's something else, Lisa said hesitantly. We found records of captive aliens in their database, non-Deathworlders mostly. The Sictic are converting them. She displayed horrifying images of alien prisoners with neural implants attached to their bodies. They're turning them into drones, Mason said, disgust in his voice, forcing them into the hive. This goes beyond territorial disputes, Admiral Carter said grimly. This is an ideological war. They see individual intelligence as chaos. They want to bring everyone into their perfect order. Commander Krex's scales darkened with anger. Then they will learn that chaos can be powerful too. When Deathworlders unite, even a hive mind can be broken. Mason nodded in agreement. 2 different species from 2 different worlds, yet in this moment, they understood each other perfectly. 1 month after the attack on Omega-6, Mason stood on the bridge of the Defiant Asterisk. The ship was no longer just a human vessel. Vrelk engineers had added their advanced shield technology. Human technicians had improved the Vrelk weapons with better targeting systems. The result was unlike anything either species had created before. Status report, Mason said. Admiral Carter had promoted him to commander after the events at Omega-6. All systems green. Officer Jones replied from his station. The Vrelk battle group is in position. They await your signal. Mason nodded. The Defiant led a fleet of 20 Earth ships. Alongside them flew 15 Vrelk warships. Never before had the two species worked together like this. The Xiktik fleet has been detected at the edge of the system. Lysa Winters reported. 87 ships. They'll reach Earth in 6 hours. Mason took a deep breath. Intelligence had revealed the Xiktik plan. Simultaneous attacks on Earth and the Vrelk homeworld. But the Alliance had been ready. While this fleet defended Earth, another combined force protected the Vrelk planet. Open a channel to all ships, Mason ordered. When the channel was ready, he spoke clearly. This is Commander Mason. Today we face an enemy that believes we should not exist. The Xiktik see our evolution on Deathworlds as a mistake. They believe our independent minds are chaos that must be controlled. Today, we show them the power of that chaos. Today, humans and Vrelk fight as one. He paused, then added, we attack in 5 minutes. Mason out. As the fleet moved forward, Mason received a private call from Krex, who commanded the Vrelk ships. A good speech, Commander, Krex said. Short but effective. Very human. Thank you. Mason replied with a slight smile. I'll leave the longer battle cries to the Vrelk. Krex made the rumbling sound that passed for a laugh among his people. May your weapons strike true. See you on the other side of victory. The battle began suddenly and violently. The Xiktik ships moved in perfect formation, like parts of a single organism. But the Allied fleet was ready. Humans provided unpredictable tactics while the Vrelk delivered raw power. Evasive pattern delta. Mason ordered as energy beams cut through space. The Defiant rolled and turned, avoiding the worst of the attack. Their coordination is impressive, Officer Peterson said as he fired the main weapons. It's like fighting one giant enemy with 87 parts. That's exactly what we're doing, Lisa replied from her station. And it might be their weakness too. For 2 hours, the battle raged across the void of space. The Allied fleet lost 7 ships, 3 human, 4 Vrelk. But the Xiktik losses were higher. Their perfect formation began to break apart as the chaotic attack styles of the Deathworlders disrupted their plans. They're targeting the Defiant specifically, Jones called out as the ship shook from a direct hit. They'd recognized the command vessel, Mason said. Krex, are you seeing this? Yes, the Vrelk commander replied over the communication channel. They adapt. Impressive. Suddenly, Lisa's eyes widened as she studied her readings. Commander, I'm detecting a massive energy buildup in the Xiktik flagship. It's like nothing I've ever seen. On the view screen, Mason watched as the largest Xiktik ship began to glow with strange energy. Smaller vessels moved to protect it. All ships, focus fire on the flagship. Mason ordered. Whatever they're charging, we can't let them use it. Too late, Lisa said quietly. They're firing. A beam of blinding energy shot from the Xiktik flagship, but instead of hitting any ships, it tore open a hole in space itself. What the hell was that? Mason demanded. Lisa worked frantically at her station. It's some kind of wormhole technology. They've opened a direct path to. Oh no. To where? Mason asked, dreading the answer. To Earth, Lisa replied, her face pale. And I'm detecting another one opening near the Vrelk homeworld. This was their plan all along. The bridge of the Defiant erupted in chaos as the implications of Lisa's words sank in. The Xiktik had opened direct paths to both homeworlds. The battles here were just a distraction. Status of the wormholes, Mason demanded. Stable and growing, Lisa replied, her fingers flying over her controls. Sensors detect Sictic ships already moving through them. Mason made his decision instantly. Jones, set course for that wormhole. Peterson, send word to Admiral Carter. Tell him we're coming through. Commander Krex is hailing us, Officer Patel said from communications. The Vrelk commander's face appeared on screen. His scales were darker than usual, a sign of stress in his species. You see what they've done, Krex said without preamble. Yes, Mason replied. I'm taking the Defiant through to Earth. Your people need you at your homeworld. Krex nodded. The battle splits, but our alliance holds. Good hunting, Commander. The connection ended. Mason watched as the Vrelk ships broke formation, half following Krex toward their home, the other half continuing to engage the Sictic fleet. We're approaching the wormhole, Jones announced. All hands, braced for transit, Mason ordered. The Defiant plunged into the swirling energy. For a moment, everything seemed to stretch and compress at once. Then they emerged above Earth. The blue planet filled the view screen. But it wasn't alone. Dozens of Sictic ships had already arrived. Earth's defense fleet is engaged, Lisa reported. They're outnumbered. Not anymore, Mason said. All weapons target the nearest Sictic vessel. Full power. The Defiant joined the battle, its Vrelk-enhanced shields absorbing damage that would have destroyed a normal Earth ship. Its human-improved targeting systems hit with deadly precision. For 20 minutes, they'd fought alongside Earth's defenders. But the Sictic kept coming through the wormhole. We need to close that portal, Mason said, watching as 3 more enemy ships emerged. Lisa looked up from her station. I've been analyzing their wormhole technology. It's powered from the flagship on the other side. If we could disrupt the source, we need to go back through, Mason realized. Sir, Peterson said, that's suicide. There are too many enemy ships waiting. Maybe not, Lisa interrupted. The Sictic are a hive mind, remember. They think as one. That's their strength, but also their weakness. What if we could disrupt that connection, even temporarily? How? Mason asked. Lisa's eyes lit up. During our research with Drav, we discovered their neural networks operate on a specific frequency. If we could broadcast a countersignal, we could break their coordination. Mason finished. Jones, turn us around. We're going back through. The Defiant broke from Earth's defenders and charged toward the wormhole. Enemy fire tracked them, but Peterson's evasive maneuvers kept them mostly intact. As they emerged on the other side, Mason was surprised to see the battle had changed. Several Sictic ships drifted dead in space. The Vrelk vessels that had remained were fighting in tight formation. What happened? Mason asked. Sir, receiving transmission from the Vrelk sub-commander, Paddle reported. The screen showed a Vrelk officer Mason didn't recognize. Commander Mason, Krex informed us of your plan before he departed. We have been keeping the path clear for your return. Thank you, Mason replied. We need to reach the Sictic flagship. We will provide escort, the Vrelk officer said, for both our worlds. The Defiant flanked by 3 Vrelk warships, pushed toward the glowing Sictic flagship. Enemy vessels moved to intercept, but the combined firepower of human and Vrelk technology carved a path forward. Lisa, is your counter-signal ready? Mason asked as they closed in. Yes, but we need to get closer, she replied. Much closer. Mason nodded grimly. Jones, set collision course for the flagship. Sir? Jones questioned, turning in his chair. Not to crash, Mason clarified, but close enough that they can't ignore us. Close enough that every Sictic in that hive mind will hear our message. The massive Sictic flagship loomed ahead, its insectoid design growing larger on the view screen. Inside, Mason knew, was the Queen, the central mind of the entire Sictic force. All hands, Mason said calmly. Prepare for final approach. The Defiant shuddered as it pushed through the Sictic defenses. Two Vrelk escort ships had already been destroyed. The third flew in tight formation, its weapons clearing a path. "Distance to target?" Mason asked, gripping his command chair as the ship rocked from another hit. 500 meters in closing, Jones replied. "Their weapons are focused on us now." Lisa worked frantically at her station, counter signal ready to broadcast. "But Commander, even if this works, we'll still need to destroy the wormhole generator." Mason nodded grimly. "One problem at a time. Prepare to broadcast on my mark." The massive Sectic flagship filled the view screen now. Its strange, organic-looking hull bristled with weapons, all firing at the approaching ships. "Shields at 30%. Peterson called out. "We can't take much more." 300 meters, Jones announced. 200. "Now, Lisa," Mason ordered. "Broadcast the counter signal." Lisa activated her program. The *Defiant* began transmitting the destruction frequency aimed directly at the Sectic neural network. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then suddenly, the enemy fire became erratic. Some weapons stopped altogether. "It's working," Lisa exclaimed. "Their coordination is breaking down." Mason didn't waste the opportunity. "All weapons target their main power core." The Defiance weapons fired in unison, striking the flagship at its weakest point. The hull breached, exposing the inner chambers. "Damage report on the flagship?" Mason asked. "Their systems are in chaos," Lisa reported. "But the wormhole generator is still active. It's in a protected central chamber. We can't reach it with our weapons." Mason made a quick decision. "Peterson, Jones, with me. We're boarding that ship. Lisa, you have the bridge. Keep broadcasting that signal as long as possible." Minutes later, Mason led a small team through the damaged hull of the Sectic flagship. The Vrelk ship had docked alongside them, and a team of Vrelk warriors joined the mission. Among them was Drav, the weapons specialist. "The Queen will be near the center," Drav said, his massive energy weapon at the ready. "Their most important leaders always are." They moved through strange corridors that seemed more grown than built. The few Sectic they encountered moved erratically, confused by the disruption of their hive mind. They were dispatched quickly. "The wormhole generator should be this way," Peterson said, checking his scanner. "And I'm picking up a massive life form nearby." They entered a large chamber filled with pulsing technology. In the center stood a Sectic twice the size of the others. Her body was adorned with strange markings, and her compound eyes seemed to glow with intelligence. "The Queen," Drav growled. Unlike her drones, the Queen seemed unaffected by the counter signal. She turned to face the intruders, her mandibles clicking rapidly. "Deathworlders," she said, her voice translated by their devices. "So predictable in your chaos." Mason raised his weapon. "Shut down the wormholes. Now." The Queen's body language suggested something like amusement. "You do not understand what you face. We evolved in radiation that would kill you in seconds. We developed perfect unity while your kinds fought among yourselves. We are the next step in evolution." "Unity through force isn't evolution," Mason replied. "It's control. You fear us because we are different," the Queen said, "just as the galaxy fears you. We study your kinds, your unpredictable nature, your violence, your adaptability. Left unchecked, Deathworlders will dominate and destabilize the galaxy." Trav stepped forward. "Then why not talk? Why attack?" "Because chaos cannot be reasoned with," the Queen answered. "It must be contained." While they spoke, Peterson had moved quietly toward the wormhole generator. At Mason's subtle signal, he planted explosive charges. "You're wrong about us," Mason said. "Yes, we evolved in harsh worlds. Yes, we can be dangerous. But our chaos, as you call it, is also creativity. It's freedom." The Queen moved suddenly, faster than something her size should be able to. She knocked Drav aside and lunged for Mason. But years of training on a death world had honed his reflexes. He dodged and fired in one smooth motion. The Queen staggered. "Now," Mason shouted. Peterson detonated the charges. The wormhole generator exploded in a flash of energy. The Queen screamed, a sound that pierced their translation devices. "What have you done? The feedback will destroy us all." The ship began to shake violently. Systems overloaded throughout the vessel. "Back to the ships," Mason ordered. "Move." As they ran through the collapsing flagship, Mason realized that Deathworlders had one more trait in common: a powerful will to survive.